Yo, welcome to Music is a Day Job. I'm your host, Sean. And Music is a Day Job is brought to you by the Concert app. The Concert app is an artist accelerator app that takes artists from opener to headliner to on tour and gives fans the best experience in independent live music. Now, today is a special episode, kinda. It's a real serious subject. An artist asked me to talk about this. Basically, being a musician and mental health. Now, the thing about this is a lot of us look at music as our escape. And so that's one side of this is music as an escape. And I like to use music to help a lot of people. Like I've been able to help some kids get into studios and stuff like that that are dealing with a lot of issues. That arise from family situations, environment, everything like that. And they use the music as an escape. Anything that's going on that's a struggle mentally, maybe physically, whatever, using music as a way to get away and a way to escape any problems that you could possibly have. Now, I always say that that's that's probably like one of the best things to do is release your experience through writing and performing. I've had some kids come up to me and just be like, like their life changed and where they were mentally and everything was in a bad space. And then when they got to release on stage or they got to go into the studio and write their feelings and write their emotions, it changed it for them. And so that's like one of the best feelings to be able to help somebody in those situations. For me personally, it always was a release for the things that was building up in my mind that maybe could be, toxic to me in any type of way. And I was able to release on paper, or when I'm doing shows, you can just escape in a world. But see, the one thing people don't talk about as far as mental health for musicians is the opposite side of this is you can write yourself into more problems. And I wanted to talk about this because I talked to one of our artists about this, and I was explaining to him. I was like, at some points you can get too close to who you believe, who you've written. And like, not to say that people have written a persona that's totally fake, because some people actually do write a persona that's totally fake. But then some people write personas that are extreme versions of themselves. And within that, mentally, you can get trapped not understanding the difference. And I told him, I was like, you never want to let the two come close to each other, like your persona and who you really are. And I watched this happen because I watched people start believing who they've written about. And it can be true to the idea that you participated in some of these things, or you have seen some of these things, but then you can write yourself into really being that persona like all the time and lose who you originally were as a person. And now what I mean by that is, if you ever watch some artists, like let's take like a gangster rapper, they can write themselves into being the most gangster person in the world and then have to face more situations and lose who they are as a person in general and put themselves in way worse situations because they weren't really like fully invested at that rate, but then they're writing at that rate and then it becomes real life. Other ways where it can affect your mental health is you can be in a place where you forget who you are. And this can be toxic for your growth as a person. This can also be toxic in your beliefs of who you are and how you carry yourself, how you treat yourself. Are you keeping your mind healthy just like you may keep your physical body healthy? And so I tell artists, always understand the difference between the two. Like, yes, this is you, and yes, this is you. However, one of them, people, not to say fans want like the worst for you or anything like that, but we know that entertainment isn't bland. Like entertainment, like people want to see what the entertainment piece of it is. And sometimes we're releasing our pain and you can get trapped in the pain mentally because you're talking about it so much. I watch some artists, they talk about pain so much that they like put themselves in that space more than they should. And it can be a downhill turn. It then can become where you need something else as the escape because you're putting yourself in the situation more than you usually would as an everyday person. So I tell people watch those two because one is a persona and one has to come home. And so you have to know when to shut this one all the way off. Otherwise, you are playing a game on your own mind and it can take over who you believe yourself to be. I tell people all the time that it's like, it's almost like Clark Kent and Superman. Clark Kent never allows you to know he's Superman. And you will never see them. You'll never see him make that mistake. Or Batman or whatever like that. You never see them make that mistake. The moment you make that mistake is the worst situation because then you, like, especially if you don't know the difference. And that's like, as I say, like that can destroy your mental health in a way that you can't. Like I watch artists that get caught into, like, for instance, I watch artists that may have an addiction out the gate. A lot of what they talk about end up becoming based around that. And that artist, what they're portraying inside some of the music can be 10 times the, how can I say it? 10 times the magnitude of what real life was prior with it. When this 10 times the magnitude comes, then they participate in all these situations 10 times as much. So like, for instance, I had a homie that drank a little bit and he drank when we partied or whatever like that. But then when the magnitude of where he's at, the places he's at, the things he's going through and everything like that dealt with the music, it ended up making him drink 10 times more. And it got 10 times worse because he was in the spaces that he was usually using for things to cope. And he was like, but it was rare. So it was kind of like, oh, when we party, drink a little bit, whatever like that. And it was a getaway. And it was like that. But then when you're partying all the time, it then becomes that situation consistently. And the coping mechanism in his mind is making him do it all the time because he's just matching it up to when he does it usually. And then, like, I've watched people where the drama it gets worse as the fame comes and the drama gets more and more. So then they start losing it even further and going into a place of darkness all the time versus the times when they could separate themselves and they could be just around family and be around those things. So then I just wanted to talk about that because the person who asked me, he was just kind of like, well, he was telling me how he was struggling and he was kind of like, did you ever deal with any of this when you were in music? And I was kind of like, well, yeah, because you can write yourself into the situation so many times that you start replaying those moments that hurt. And when you're replaying those moments that hurt in your mind all the time and like the music saying it, you can get into a place where you can lose yourself into that pain and you can start responding in a way that you shouldn't. And as I said, a lot of us, we take as the music is the way to get away from it. But we never talk about writing ourselves into it. And it's just one of those things that's I don't know why I've never seen anything about it. Maybe it's just me. I don't know if other artists have this situation, but I know the few people I've talked to, they've been kind of like, wow, like that's the truth. Like you can write yourself back into it, and you can open up situations and open things deeper, because when you're writing at that level, you're actually you're finding out things, which is good, but then you can keep reopening things that you were trying to heal from. So we don't ever think about where we're taking it and how to separate those because it's so close to us. So then we have to figure out when to separate and when to be like, okay, well, this is for this purpose and this is for this. Maybe we don't go over here as much as you know what I'm saying, because we're not healed enough to go over here consistently. So I want artists to pay attention to those signs and kind of be, I don't know if it's cognitive or like conscious of, or something like that, of like where you're going and understanding who you are, so you don't put yourself in a toxic situation in your mind and you can't escape it. You watch tons of artists like self-destruct this way because they are so in depth into it, and you are kind of writing yourself into it even further. And you can think it's you expressing yourself and getting it away, but you're actually getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. And the music industry isn't going to stop you, because that's what is entertaining, which sucks in this world, which then becomes the destruction of somebody is almost entertaining. People do it on TV all day. People do it on social media all day. Watch how when they crucify someone they watch the destruction of someone. And people can say whatever they want to say, but that's the reality, is that's what they're watching. They're watching this person go up to fame and fall from fame. The underdog story is so good because there's so much of an underdog that their life has to suck where they were, that you wanted them to win, and then you're going to want them to come fall and crashing back down. And that's what this game ends up being in some spaces. And some people can put themselves so they make the fall quicker because they're like in that space. And just pay attention to it and keep your mental health up. Figure out where you can separate those two, and figure out even more things outside of just the music where you get your release from. So once again, this Music is a Day Job. I'm your host, Sean. It's brought to you by the Concert app. Now the Concert app's in way more states than it was before, and I can't remember them all. So if you do get on the app, you can get on from any type of phone, whatever. Get onto the app and then see if your state is in there, or well, if your city's in there, and then definitely get on shows. If we have shows there, if we have a Q2 conference, to make sure you come out to the conference, because we'll be talking about more about things of making music a day job. If you know any venues, or if you know any more artists, tell all the artists to get on. If you know any more venues, make sure you let us know so we can start getting into those venues, so we can get shows in your area or in an area that's already popping, and then we can get more venues, because this will help you get more shows and get your resume up. Now, definitely like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, I'm your host, Sean, and this has been Music is a Day Job.